So, what did I say? This is a Dancy Dennett, Illusionism as the Obvious Default Theory of Consciousness, and this is in the Journal of Consciousness Studies. Let me just double check that. Yeah, Journal of Consciousness Studies from 2016. He knows a lot of words. Yeah, we have to know a lot of words. Yeah, and how you doing, K-Pars? So we're going to read some philosophy of mind. And as always, I have not read this. Although maybe one of these days I'm going to have to do a disclaimer. Sometimes I haven't read it, but I know a fuck ton of stuff in the area, and that has tripped me up before where I knew way too much of the background. But not in this area. Like, I'm, like, you know, I know some stuff, but I'm not like an expert over here. So as always, let me know and we'll try and figure out what it says. Jae-Gwon Kim is a great place to get like scoping reviews in his books. Yeah, Jae-Gwon Kim is another excellent philosopher. So yeah. You've slowed down a lot, but I haven't written a review about that one yet. Ah, there you go. You like Jae-Gwon Kim's work, and William Seeger is good for philosophy of mind, if that means anyone. Yeah. I remember reading like Jae-Gwon Kim articles back when I was an undergrad. I was like, oh, this person is smart. So yeah. Alright, so here we go. And as always, ask questions if you want my opinion on stuff, or make comments. Let me know. Keith Frankish's superb survey of the variety of illusionism provokes in me some reflections on what philosophy can offer to cognitive science and why it so often manages instead to ensnarl itself in an internecine battle over details and ill-motivated theories in scare quotes that, even if true, would be trivial and provide no substantial enlightenment on any topic and no help at all to the baffled scientist. This is a crazy first sentence. Look how long this fucking first sentence is. And it has many big fucking weird words. He had used internecine battle. Yeah. Like, look at this. Internecine. You don't normally see that word. It means like just like not like a unending battle. Yeah, and so like just like it's a complicated first sentence. No wonder so many scientists blithely ignore philosophers' tussles while marching overconfidently into one abyss or another. Yeah, so if the philosophers don't make any sense, you can't blame the scientists for just boldly going off and trying to figure shit out. Like, good on them. The key for me lies in the everyday non-philosophical meaning of the word illusionist. An illusionist is an expert in sleight of hand and the other devious methods of staged magic. We philosophical illusionists are also illusionists in the everyday sense, or should be. That is, our burden is to figure out and explain how the magic is done. Selling your labor, yeah. Frankish says, illusion. Oh yeah, what's up, Descarlism? Illusionism replaces the hard problem with the illusion problem. The problem of explaining how the illusion of phenomenality arises and why it is so powerful. This problem is not easy, but not impossibly hard either. The method is to form hypotheses about the underlying cognitive mechanisms and their bases in neurophysiology and neuroanatomy, drawing on evidence from across the cognitive sciences. Okay, so instead of saying, what is it like to be alive? What is consciousness like? It's saying, look, what is the illusion that you think you're a consciousness? Is, like, how did you get such an illusion to begin with? Now, this is one thing I like about Dennett. You can tell exactly what he's doing. This basically begs the question of consciousness. He just says, look, it's just an illusion. From the fucking get-go, he doesn't even waste any time. It's just like, it's just, you're an illusionist. Consciousness is an illusion. Like, full stop. Like, just right here. Like, there's nothing else to it. K-Par says, I think it might be Dennett who says, quote, asking how the brain makes consciousness is like asking how does Santa deliver all its presents in one night, end quote. Like suggesting it begs the question that we are conscious. Well, that's what I said. Yeah, so exactly. This is one of the things I like. At least with Dennett, you're not getting like fooled. He's not trying to like hide his position. It's like, you know, he's just like, nah, we're not asking what like this mystical consciousness thing is. We're asking why we think we're in such a silly position. Okay, in other words, you can't be a satisfied successful illusionist until you have provided the details of how the brain manages to create the illusion of phenomenality, and that is a daunting task largely in the future. As philosophers, our one contribution at this point can only be schematic, to help the scientists avoid asking the wrong questions and sketching the possible alternatives given what we now know and motivating them as best we can. This is just what Frankish has done. Okay, Yeah, so see, he's not wasting time. He's just saying, we're doing what Frankish said, which is what Dennett already agrees with. And that is, how do we understand, given that we're assuming it's an illusion, there is no consciousness. What else is there to be done? It's like, yeah. So it's like, this is, I think, also what Ivan always says. Ivan says the goal of philosophy, or one of the goals of philosophy, is to help the scientists avoid asking stupid questions. And so this is exactly in this sort of scientific understanding of the job of philosophy. Yeah, and K. Pars was on it too. And the handmaiden theory of philosophy, yeah, which I don't like. I mean, I'm not in this. I am way more like, I'm one of my cousin's wife. She I was talking about something. She's just like, you're not like, she was saying, you're not like an empiricist. Like everyone else is very science based. I'm like, no, I'm actually way more like on the rationalist side of things, and like the sociologically in the contemporary space of philosophy. I'm not in the like majority party where it's just like sort of science and naturalism. I'm just on the like metaphysics, rationalism. I'm much farther over there. Yeah, of course, it's because he's a scientist, but I think he's also in the majority of people today are in that area. And that puts me in the minority, and it groups me with people I don't always like being with, like the religious folks. I'm not religious, but it's like, I'm also like, yeah, like people who are like, oh yeah, it's like God or something. I'm like, no. But it's like, yeah. Okay, bars, now I'm trying to remember, does Dennett formally draw an identity between the brain and mind, or does he do a supervenience argument? Well, he's I'm pretty sure he's a hard determinist. So it like this, whatever this illusionism, I think we might find out right here. Like how this comes up is he may not do a supervenience, but he may do something sort of analogous with this illusion. Like, so we have an illusion that we're consciousness. Does that supervene on the brain? I don't think so. I think that's just part of the brain. So it's like yeah, I don't know. Like, it would be, but this may just be splitting hairs. Okay. So, Frankish distinguishes and assesses the different versions of illusionism, illuminating the paths that led to them. His account of my own view is flawless, and I was enlightened by many of his remarks about the ideas of other illusionists I thought I fully understood. Cinematic says, I feel like it's the opposite. Scientists are there to look down on the inherent underpinnings of science, which are entirely and only matters of philosophy. I mean, what are we all doing? Like, you know, sometimes the scientists make really interesting and like clever breakthroughs, and like it matters to philosophy. Sometimes the philosophers, like we were talking about earlier, I don't know how many people were here for that, but like falsificationism like was a big thing, but then the philosophers started to realize it's not going to work. Like, it doesn't actually make sense. And in practice, it doesn't make sense. Even though a lot of people still be like, oh yeah, science is falsifiable. It's like if you want like a real handmaiden of like science, like where the philosophy is like trying to help people along, it's like, stop talking about falsificationism. You're only going to get yourself in trouble. I was talking to a buddy of mine at work, and he said he was listening to some biology podcast, and I was telling him like, it's not like, because in philosophy biology, it's like, well, what's evolution? It's just sex and death and like eating, and like that's it. And like I was like, that's not actually, it's like just, it's not just like how many kids you can have. Like, that doesn't actually work in theory. And he's like, what? I'm like, it doesn't. Like, there's population limits and things like that. So if it's just how many kids you can have, then you're going to run into like overpopulation, and your population is going to collapse. So if you try to do game theory on the just having the most kids possible, it fails immediately. And he was like, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, it's like, but he was like, but how do you do biology otherwise? It's like, well, it's complicated, but you don't worry the biologist with this. Like, there's a philosophy problem. And then he said he was listening to some podcast, and he said that the podcaster says, look, we know the philosophers are right about this, but we're just going to do this anyway. And he was like, oh my God, I never noticed that. I was like, yeah, the people know, and the philosophers aren't wrong about certain things, but it's just like, this is the current mentality. Yeah. Sensei Mike says, I'll put it this way, science is but one mode of apprehending the world. Yeah, that's fair. Many others are equally or even more useful. Yeah. So, I mean, I am a philosopher. I'm not a scientist. I'm not don't think I have any particular scientific skills that are better or worse than anybody else. I mean, I don't know. I've never actually tried to do much science. But, like, what I do is I do philosophy, and I'm, I've had some success at it. So, it's like, yeah, I like what I do. It's like, other people appreciate it sometimes. Like, I have been published. It's like, yeah, too much time and effort, though. And what do I get for my struggles? I was talking to my mom, and I was just like, the paper that's in chat, the paper I got published in October, the paradox, non-paradox paper. Someone asked me how long I've been working on that for. I was like, 20 years. I knew about that stuff when I was an undergrad. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, 20, yeah. I guess, like, I've been, like, rehashing that shit for 20 years. Like, yeah, well, how long the stuff takes sometimes. So, yeah, there are other ways of looking at the world, and it doesn't happen sometimes. So it's like, you have to do what you can do, your contribution. Adam said, yeah, same in quantum physics. The motto for them is shut up and calculate and don't worry about the ontological interpretation anymore. Yeah, and I think they're starting to get worried at this point that the shut up and calculate might be running out of steam. That they're going to have to go back and start rethinking things. Cinematic says, but its very nature, publishing a paper is supposed to benefit all the other people, not the author. Yeah, but it would be nice to get something out of it. I mean, yes, I am contributing to the overall, like, discussion of the human race about what is going on in our world. And, like, I'm happy that I have contributed something to, like, whatever amount that is. That's nice. But, it's like, I did put a lot of time and effort in. And I get, like, people who know me and give me, like, respect. But, like, have I seen anything out of this? I get, like, pat on the back. Good job, Noah. It's like, that's all I got. So, be nice to get something one day. But yeah, well, where were we? It doesn't matter. So Frankish gave an account of Dennett's position on illusionism. So Frankish is particularly good on the various motivations of the variations, but I want to stress the motivation for the overall strategy of taking illusionism in any form seriously. And here, once again, it is useful to take a glance at stage magic. In today's world, if not in the Dark Ages or even Renaissance, the standard default assumption about any feat of stage magic we encounter is that it is somehow the product of everyday physical causes, involving perhaps magnets and electricity or even holograms, but not psychokinesis, clairvoyance, or the assistance of any poltergeist, goblins, or other supernatural agents. In other words, it is stage magic, not real magic. Yeah, so again, this is just Dennett insisting. This is not really an argument. This is just Dennett insisting that there is no magic in the world, there is only physics. Now, what does this count for? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's just Dennett repeating himself for rhetorical purposes. Do I care that this is what he says people thought back in the day? Not really. I don't think he's a historian. He's got no references. It's like, all right, people thought that it was a trick, and it probably was, but what does that actually tell us about consciousness? I don't think much. But then again, this is all rhetorical setup here. Okay. So in his excellent book on Indian street magic, Net of Magic, Wonders in Deception in India, Lee Siegel writes, quote, I'm writing a book on magic. I'll explain and I'm asked, real magic? By real magic, people mean miracles, thaumaturgical acts, and supernatural powers. Quote, no, I answer, conjuring tricks, not real magic. Real magic, in other words, refers to the magic that is not real, while the magic that is real that can actually be done is not real magic. Yeah, so what you mean by real magic practiced by human magicians is a trick. Now, if you could do actually something like a wizard would do, that would be different. I will say one thing here. We are skirting different kinds of technologies. Like, if you were in the Harry Potter universe, those people have what we consider, like, real magic. That is just a technology for them. They can work on it. They study it. It's regular for them. That is their technology. We just don't have, like us, muggles don't have access to it. So there's a problem here, and it's an underlying understanding of the philosophy of technology. Adam says, I understand the move being made, and the analogy is for placing the problem in everyday terms or lingua. Yes. Thank you for the 500 bits.
Franca said 500 for your paper, so now you can say you have gotten something for it. This is exclusively for the paper you wrote. I offer these bits for no other reason. Congratulations.
Thank you. That may be the first $5 I've gotten by getting published on that. So it's like, yeah, I appreciate the bits. Thank you very much, Semiotics. I'm pleased the system worked that time. Like I tested out the gift sub because you gave a gift sub last time and it worked and I hadn't changed anything. And I was like, why didn't it work last time? Yeah. I'm officially a paid philosopher. Tindarius, I was already a paid philosopher because, well, I'm technically Twitch money that you like subs and bits and stuff are royalties. This is a show and you're paying me royalties. That's how I get paid. That's what on your taxes this is treated as. Like if I wrote a book and I get paid royalties on the book. Well, I'm making a broadcast and the subs and bits and all the other donations and support I get, that is a royalty. So I've been paid for doing my philosophy online. That's true. But now I don't think I had gotten anything specifically for the paper. So yeah. But yeah. Okay, continuing. The common understanding is that magicians are doing tricks, not engaging in sorcery, and moreover, the default but defeasible assumption about any feat of stage magic is that it doesn't avail itself of quantum entanglement, Einstein's spooky action at distance, or the creation of any new subatomic particles or other forces that would institute a revolution in physics. Hey, it's just stage magic. So does that 500 bits end up as $5 in pocket or slightly less? No, that usually is pretty straight up 500 bits. Maybe there is some transfer fee, like it would be I don't think so. I think I get 100% of bits, but of course the way Twitch does it is it takes the cut at the beginning. So you didn't pay $5 for the 500 bits if you're in the US. You paid more than $5 for the 500 bits. And if you're the same, like, and whatever the ratio is in other countries. So I'm pretty sure I get all of the bits, maybe less a transfer fee, but you're never going to get rid of that. I think I get all of it though. That's how it works. No, see, yeah, not much less than Darius. I get much less of subs, but again, subs are nice because that gives ad-free viewing. So subs, subscriptions build community, bits go more directly, and of course you can use the tip jar below the stream. It's like Stream Elements tip. That is just that takes out PayPal fees, and that's it, or whatever it is. To Carlos Mahore have published now. Here's your course to teach next term. They're just intro courses. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, I mean that's what it is like to be an academic. And so if I was an academic, then I could say, well, maybe I had a job that was based on my like publishing. I'm getting paid for that, but I'm not an academic, so I don't get that. I can't even say that. Look, I got a job because I had these publications. That's not true. Now, one day I might consider going back to school, and at that point I would be getting into probably a pretty good grad program that was funded because I am a published philosopher. So, what's up, Lumpy? How you doing? If anyone does not know our good friend Lumpy Dragon Potato, you should know our friend Lumpy Dragon Potato. Go give Lumpy Dragon Potato a follow. If you have not. You had a complex day. Huh? Really? What's a complex day? Was it your first day back? I think you were saying it was like it'll be your first or second day back. I mean, was it like chemically complex or just like socially complex? Because Lumpy was on vacation. But yeah. And Lumpy does some just chatting, talks some philosophy, talks Minecraft building and fantasy worlds, and yeah, finance. So yeah. Cool stuff. Could barely do any chemistry thanks to having 4 meetings. Oh. Can't do any of the fun stuff. You have to talk to people all day. That's not great. You managed to do the essentials. Well, that's good. So, but what? Uh-oh. There's a butt. I can see a butt below me. What is that butt? Let me tell about the meetings. Yeah, I'll drop it in chat. Yeah, so we're doing a little Dennett here. Yeah. Best viewers, thank you so much, Is Polo. Appreciate that. Have a great day. It's Polo 1. Yeah. Be gone. Be gone. In short, when it comes to stage magic, we assume until positively shown otherwise that the effects are achieved by some hard-to-imagine concoction of everyday physical causes and effects. You see, all of this is just saying, well, it's our default. This does not show that it should be the default, it's just showing that it is often the default. And it's like, yeah, like in short, when it comes to this, we assume. Assume. You see right here, it's an assumption. That everything's physical. Here is where anybody, philosopher, scientist, or visionary, is apt to suffer a failure of imagination and mistake it for insight into necessity. As the noted illusionist Jamie Ian Swiss has said, no one would ever think that we would ever work this hard to fool you. That's a secret and a method of magic. This is not just an interesting observation. It draws attention to a fact that puts all philosophers on notice. Nobody would or should take seriously a would-be explainer of stage magic who declared that it was just undeniably, intuitively obvious that no possible sequence of ordinary physical events could account for the feat just observed. We philosophical illusionists say that before you run off half-cocked with theories about consciousness as one sort of or another of real magic. You should try to explain it all as an illusion engendered by nature. See, the problem is that everyone who wants to talk about consciousness thinks it's of a different sort of thing. Now, like, I can play around with this pencil, like, oh, it's a pencil, like, oh my god. No one thinks there's anything special about the pencil because we know how it was made, we know that people did it. The problem with human consciousness is that we don't exactly know what's going on up in our heads. And that's the difficulty. And then we, of course, have a theory of evolution. We know how, like, our species came about. But that doesn't, like, quite explain how we got smart. Like, we got smarter due to evolution, but it doesn't say what happened. So the problem here is, of course, one of kind. Like, if you're going to, like, do, like, what are we doing? This is the exact point where you have to, like, well, Dennett's just like, well, we're naturalists. So it's like, well, you can be naturalist about things you already assumed were natural, but we don't understand mind already, and so it's like it's hard to just assume it. The first one was for the new CEO to introduce himself. Oh, that's nice. You got to meet the CEO. He seemed like a reliable and humble enough. Then we noticed he came in his own car, a Jaguar with a vanity plate with his name on it, and that is actually humble compared to the actual helicopter or limousine of the other bosses. Wow. Okay, yeah. So vanity plates aren't that expensive, but yeah, nice enough that he drives himself and not a chauffeur. Yeah. What do you mean? Your brain came with a Made in China tag? Hey. We nowadays have to, like, recognize there might be some bots out there we should be saying hi to. You felt like the NF and plebe when I was glad I avoided being hit by dust of the boss's helicopter. Yeah, that's a little crappy. I mean, at my work, we make fun of the board and stuff, but, like, we don't know who those people are, and they don't talk to us, people. According to panpsychism, this pencil is conscious. Yes, in a very, very, very small amount. So, it has at least a little bit of consciousness to it. I mean, we just have more of whatever the consciousness is. Yeah, I mean, I have talked to I don't know if he counts as, like, the CEO or assistant CEO, but the guy who runs the place. I've spoken to him a few times at my place. He doesn't know my name, but, like, we used to eat lunch in the lunchroom at the same time, and so I used to end up seeing him years ago, so he knows my face, but yeah, he don't know my name, and I'm happy he doesn't know my name. Like, it would only cause me difficulty if he actually knew who I was and what I did. There's no way that, like, any good could come of him knowing what I get myself up to. Like, it just doesn't matter. Yeah, but, like, that's welcome to corporate life. Like, scarcity. You should not be recognized. You should not be found out, like, who you are. There's no reason for them to know who I am, like the bosses. The boss at my work, there's no reason for them to know who I am, like the high-up bosses. I have no interest in, like, dealing with them, and there's no good that could come of them knowing my name. Lumpy says the second meeting was a big QBR where they announced that the salary freeze is extended. Well, except that in our third meeting, our local HR said she was wrangled a 2% increase just for the Canada sites. That's such bullshit. That is such bullshit. So it's like, it's salary freeze, except it's not. When you want that. That's just rude. You make them so much money, Lumpy, and they're like, no, we're not paying you anymore. Fucking rude. Yeah. People ask me if I should ask for a raise. I don't ask for a raise because there's no point. They're not giving me a raise. So it's like, I'm not asking because I'm not getting. Yeah. I mean, 2% in like today's economy is better than nothing, but clearly not outpacing inflation. So it's a little insulting, but it's better than nothing. It's like, I'd take it. Okay. When philosophers rely on what follows from their most undeniable intuitions about consciousness before exhausting the physical possibilities, they are not adopting a sound method of inquiry, but simply indulging themselves. Yeah, so again, this is not argued for. This is just, you know, this is just his, this is just like Dennett's opinion, man, you know? It's like he's saying, look, you haven't exhausted the physical ones, so why are you going to the metaphysical ones? Well, because we think the object in question is of a different kind than the other sorts of objects. So it's like, yeah, we could investigate with the science, and we do, but then there may be other things we are looking for. Fourth meeting was neat. The usual weekly meeting with the client, and it was short because they said, looks great, keep at it. Oh, that's always nice. K-Pars, I forgot whose argument it was, but these Frege's sense reference distinctions that mind and matter, but just a different sense. Yeah, we read a paper where they mentioned that a while back. They just had a Fregean argument that this is how the world is. So this has been done. I've read a paper where that it was at least referenced. So yeah. So, but if you want to get into like the Fregean ontology, that's got its whole thing. Like there's special objects, the true and the false, where all the propositions either map to the true and the false. So like there's got the world, and then there's like the two special truth and falsity that like things map to. And so it's like you've got senses and references and these mapping. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, what is neuroscience? Yeah. Okay, so imagine Chalmers' declaration that phenomenal consciousness is a datum transposed into the claim that a lady sawn in half is a datum, or the claim that we are directly acquainted with the real presence of a lady sawn in half. You may think you're directly acquainted with this, but that's a fact of personal psychology, at best an unshakable intuition, not a datum. You could be wrong, and if until we have canvassed the alternatives, or you should put your intuition on the back burner, not honor it. But why? But why should we ignore the things we think about the world? It's like, why? We can always do the science, but that doesn't mean that's going to cover everything. In the physical investigation of the mind, yeah. Quoted by Frankish. Okay. Maybe and maybe not. Searle apparently thinks that this is crushingly obvious, and he is not alone. When we know more about the brain's activities, we will see if we can eliminate the prospect of the brain creating an illusion of appearance of phenomenality. You can't just declare as first principle that this is impossible. No, we can't declare it's impossible. Lumpy says, but yeah, I'll treat myself to a single raw potato at Christmas, you know, because I want to retire one day. Yeah, and this is the issue. And I think this is the issue with my brother too. My brother is always done things in the more sort of like standard way than I have. And like he has a nice engineering job. He's moved up in the company. He got another job in Europe. I'm going to go visit him in September because like he wasn't going to get promoted here. So he had to leave the country to get another job to get like he got his boss's job. So he's at like the director level now. But like, it's hard to get like, you know, it's hard to get like money and stuff like, you know, houses, retirement, things that people were like in the US, like that's sort of like, oh, like so that's the American dream. It's like of course Lumpy's not in the US, but sort of like that was the idea. So it's hard. Like it's not fun where you're like, all right, I'm not having any fun here. Like yeah, single raw potato for Christmas. Lumpy Rex eats other potatoes. Okay. Illusionism may today seem incredible, even ludicrous, but if and when it is eventually fleshed out with details, those gullible folks who fell for the trick will discover that they have nothing industriously concocted in their card castle theories for nothing. I mean, this is just polemical on Dennett's part. It really is. And you're completely resigned to never having a career longer than a decade. I've been at my current place a long time now. It's getting close to a decade. Like 8 years, 9 years, 8 years, something like that. I got to get out. I was just talking to one of my friends at work, this older security guard lady, and she was thinking she may not come back next year because she gets Like they're kind of like yearly contracts. And she was like, I think I might be done. I was like, fuck. Like, there was a point a few years ago where a bunch of people got let off, and so a bunch of my friends were gone then. And now I'm losing more friends. It's like I don't really like. It's not really worth it going forward. I thought of a 40-year career at one company is repulsive to me, but also I'll even have the chance to say no to such a thing. Yeah, like I mean, I could probably stay on at my current place if I want to go have a shitty job for a long time, and it might work out, but like it just sounds terrible. Okay. I put theories in scare quotes because most philosophical theories are just definitions defended with no aspiration to make novel predictions, but rather just to assign phenomena covered by the theory to some category or other. They at best clarify and articulate the implications of the everyday concepts involved. A weakness of such theories is that since they are largely driven by shared folk intuitions, they are always playing catch-up, seeing if they can accommodate newly discovered but unanticipated scientific discoveries, instead of pioneering perspectives from which new empirical questions can be asked and answered. When counterintuitivity counts against an hypothesis with nothing but consistency to other intuitions to support it, there is little chance of making progress. Well, this is a fine criticism of philosophy. If it ain't doing shit, then like why are you bothering with the philosophy? That again, I think doesn't appreciate the phenomenon of being conscious. That is the thing people want to know about, and just assuming you're going to explain everything with science makes it hard because consciousness doesn't seem like the other stuff. But yeah. So, that said, Dennett says, illusionism boldly discards a host of all too comfortable intuitions. Yeah, so they're saying our feeling about consciousness is all too comfortable. All too human, I guess. As Frankish says, the question is not whether illusionism is intuitively plausible, but whether it is rationally compelling. Well, I don't have a problem with it being rationally compelling, but what do you think you're doing, really? Lumpy says, yeah, they say, oh my god, people are feeling so lonely. Well, the workplace churning makes it hard to make friends and keep them. I'm lucky enough to have made one real close friend at your current job. Well, that's great, Lumpy. He came on Twitch even. I've had him to have dinner with me in Muffin 2 weeks ago. That's nice. So that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I actually quite like my boss. He's a good guy. I wouldn't mind keeping contact with him if I ever left. But after that, I got one buddy. He's probably going to leave. Either he's going to get a good job where we are, or he's going to leave because people he work with are crazy. And that's not good. So either they're going to leave or he's going to leave. My security guard buddy lady, well, she's already older. She's going to leave probably sooner rather than later. So it's like, yeah, this is not happening. So, yeah. Illusionism, I am saying, should not be seen as a lame attempt to deny the obvious, but as the leading contender, the default view that should be assumed until proven otherwise. See, I hate default arguments. I say this quite often. Why default arguments I severely dislike. Like, Dennett grants that my whimsical title, Quining Qualia, lent unintended support to the perception that illusionism is a desperate and incredible dodge, and for that little joke, I now repent. That's funny. K-Par says, I think he's approaching with a very stats brain, like a null hypothesis, and you have an explanation, which makes more sense. Yeah, but no. See, I think you're right, but I think that also begs the question. What is the null hypothesis here? Like, why would you call that one the null? We've had a long history of not thinking this way, and then the fact that we've thought this way recently means nothing to a metaphysician like me. So, yeah, like I have a much longer view. Like all the things he's been quoting from the last few hundred years in history of philosophy, that's recent times. Like it's called like modern philosophy. It's like early modern. And after early modern basically comes like 18th century and into like 1920 contemporary philosophy. It doesn't matter. Like we've got a long history. So if you're looking at this in terms of history of philosophy, it's actually a recent phenomenon, and there's no reason to just think that this is not a fad that we're going through. Could, of course, be the truth. I have no problem with that. But just like from my perspective, there is no default. Lumpy says, how big is the pool of people I interact with on a daily basis at my work? If I'm being confined to small teams, it makes for a small daily universe. I deal with one guy very regularly, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, a handful of people. A handful of people. Yeah. To have a fucko tail, like tail, take the scientific intuition is born of a very narrow and specific circumstance. Was useful for a certain kind of knowledge acquisition, not some universal truth teller. Science isn't transcendental; is very much placed in human history. Yeah, so I'm not like saying like it's that narrow. I think science clearly has had some really great successes. That said, that doesn't mean it's the only way of looking at the world, and you should at least, like I said, from my perspective as a philosopher, I am not a scientist. Like, I don't look at the world that way. Now, what kind of knowledge are you going to get from philosophy? Very different sorts of stuff. Like I always say, progress in philosophy is getting better questions to ask. It's not getting like new evidence, new like results like they do in science. But if you over prioritize the results, you're not also asking better questions. And so it's like, I don't see how like this one viewpoint, this sort of scientific looking at the datum as it were, is really going to actually push us forward. And so the idea that it's the default view that we should assume until proven otherwise is just like, that is like, well, that seems philosophically simplistic and even slightly ignorant to me. But like I said, this Dennett, he likes to stick to his guns and he pushes, so that's fine. But yeah, so I appreciate the position to Carlism. Like you said, you have a fucko like take, but I'm not that, like, I'm closer to that than other people. Like, yeah. Okay. From this perspective, from Dennett's perspective, we can see that philosophers of mind who are not illusionists are prematurely encouraging scientists to worry about the wrong questions, artifactual problems like those that would arise for any scientist trying to uncover the details of the quantum entanglement theory of teleporting the beautiful assistant from one trunk to another, or trying to reconcile the actual presence of the 10 of diamonds in their pocket, where they put it with its manifest presence on the table. It is a remote possibility that we will have to fall back on quantum physics or multiple universes to account for some mind-boggling bit of magic. But first, let's try the conservative route. Hey, Rethius, how you doing? See, and I have no problem with the conservative route. I just have a problem when you call it the default route. See, there's a big difference right here. Conservative scientific practice, well, I'm 100% on board with. Take the easiest thing to study and do that first. No problem. But calling it the default view is very different. See, there's a difference between the pragmatics and the metaphysics here. Like, pragmatically, you can be like, oh yeah, we're just going to do the science. Like, that's pragmatic. We're going to look for the truth in that way. That's cool. But if you're saying, well, that's the metaphysical default, then you run into these begging the question problems. I have no problem calling this the conservative route in terms of like scientific study. But if you're just going to say assume true is not that's not a conservative thing to do. Tangential to my point, I find that many non-scientists who believe in science tend to romanticize and defend science with much more zeal than people working in the lab. Yeah, there's a joke I see a lot on, like, Reddit and social media. It's like people who know computers have like people who don't know computers have all the latest tech. They think it's fun. They have all these like gizmos doing stuff. And then people who do know computers have like no automation. They have like manual locks and everything. And they have like a toaster that's like, just a coil, and they keep a gun next to it in case it starts moving. It's like a little excessive, but if you know enough about, computer science and what's keeping everything running, you realize it's all like tape and like gum, like stuck together to keep things running, and so you don't trust any of it. Like, there's a good reason not to get a smart car in any respect. Just get yourself a dumb gas car. It's like, because those things are gonna get hacked. Like, the cars are going to get hacked, and it's going to be scary. Okay, one of the difficulties illusionists must tackle is how to temporize with terminology until the facts are in. This is the first time I've ever seen an English speaker use the word temporize. I did not realize anyone has ever used that word before, except for non-English speakers, because it gets used in other languages more. Temporize is basically mean to like hold off, wait. So how to wait with terminology until the facts are in. So yeah. DeCarlism says, I believe that, and the way still lies in the way science is communicated to lay people. If it's being presented as the uber truth, what can you expect people being hell-bent that it's the end-all be-all? Yeah. You're behind the need to explain how mental phenomena come to exist, but I don't understand the need for dualism. I'm committed to the monism. I'm restricted to emergentism, pretty much. Yeah, so I'm not like a dualist, but I also deny determinism. So it's like I'm not really worried about the problems either. So this is how I slice things. Make it all okay in my mind. Yeah. But yeah. Like, I don't have to have a default fallback to like, oh yeah, it's just all nature. Sure. But like, what does that mean? I don't know. Lumpy says, in the second meeting, our IT guy interrupted and said his computer was acting up and he could not fix the big TV we usually use for the third meeting. Yeah. Like, the IT guy can't get the tech working. It's like, it's not actually that well understood. Yeah. Okay. A fanatic about proper procedure would insist that one never use a term without saying very clearly and in detail who or what the user audience is for the so-called representation. But we simply cannot meet that burden in detail yet. So we are tempted to leave the end user slot unspecified, which amounts in theories of consciousness to evading what I call the hard question, and then what happens? Yeah, so again, Dennett's saying, look, we're not going to talk about that thing. But that, of course, seems like a weird problem because we are all conscious and we all feel like we can do this consciousness thing. So it's like, well, we can't talk about that one. Oh, why not? That's weird. Hey, Chocolate Mint. Google had a big presentation yesterday and had tech issues. They did it live. Yeah. It's ridiculous. And what was it? The Elon Musk, Donald Trump thing. You'd think they could get a live stream out in 2024. Apparently not. Like a little embarrassing. It makes a big difference whether a postulated representation is for modulating hand-eye coordination or for identification or categorization of objects or for conscious experience. Today, most of us are comfortable with systems of unconscious representations that influence, specify content, orient, direct memory, retrieval, etc. That is good as gospel in cognitive science. These are representations in us that contribute to our cognitive talents without being for us. Again, how you interpret this stuff is very... Again, this is like, yeah, most of us are, but like some philosophers are not. Like, the idea that we have like these like mental representations, exactly what that means is very, very questionable, really. They claim they had a DDoS attack. It's weird that the rest of the site was working. Like, it's so weird. Like, the idea that they don't know how to handle a DDoS attack, the idea that a DDoS attack could take down one of the biggest companies in the world when they were prepared for it is very, very strange. Them saying they have a DDoS attack, it's like, does Twitter not ever deal with DDoS attacks? Like, it's so strange. Like, it just seems like a fuck up, really. Like, who gets DDoS? Like, what big company gets DDoSed at that level? Like, it's possible, but like you'd have to actually show evidence at this point. Well, the website was working, maybe knocked the spaces. That's the problem. How'd they knock out the one service that was needed? So it just seems so strange that to claim that, of course you were DDoSed. Why wouldn't you think you wouldn't be DDoSed? You have to know about these things. Like, if you're Twitter, like they should have been massively prepared for that. Like, if they got DDoSed, it looks more incompetent. It's at least as incompetent as if they failed on their own, because it's like that should have been accounted for. That's not even like, of course you're gonna get DDoSed. Like, yes, and you weren't prepared. Well, that's also bad. Like, yeah. So which is it? Incompetent or in running a live stream, or incompetent at like dealing with all the things that you knew should have happened? Like, pick one. So yeah. Okay. Dennett says, in this regard, they are no different from the representations of blood sugar level or vitamin deficiency that modulate our digestive system without engaging cerebral cortex at all. Again, but like that is a really weird statement actually. So they're saying like the representations in the brain are like representations of blood sugar. Well, that's strange because blood sugar is like a ratio of sugar in the blood. a representation in the brain would have to be something very complex. Yeah. Bye, Lumpy. Have a good time. But at some point, as Frankish puts it, we must describe, quote, the sensory states that are the basis for the illusion. On most accounts, I will assume these will be representational states, probably modality-specific analog representations encoding features of the stimulus such as position in an abstract quality space, egocentric location, and intensity. Yeah, so again, this is already having a representational theory of mind here. So the fact that like you're going to like say, well, there's no like consciousness, but we have a representational theory of mind because that's what works with the physicalist picture. That's fine. But again, the whole setup is presupposed. fMRI works by tracking the magnetic behavior of oxygen in blood going to brain regions. Again, neuroscience justification, but not convincing philosophy. Yeah. So, yes, your brain is doing stuff. Is it doing the exact stuff they said right here? Tell me. Is that what fMRI says? I mean, you're tracking blood flow. Like, that's not a complex representation. Whatever blood flow is, it's not this. So, yeah. So... I was like, yeah, will we get better at it? Sure, we will get better at neuroscience. But, like, you can't make these claims yet. They're all about being, like, conservative here. Well, this does not, like, it just doesn't follow. We're not there in our science yet. We'll get farther, but, like, we're not there yet. Okay. Filling in these details will require answering a host of questions that Frankish raises. Quote, is introspection sensitive only to the content of sensory states, or are we also aware of properties of the neural vehicles? Do the reactions and associations evoked by our sensory states also contribute to the illusion of phenomenality? Are sensory states continually monitored or merely available to monitoring? Is the introspectability of sensory states a matter of internal access and influence rather than internal monitoring? Yeah, so like if you were thinking about this, what does that all amount to? But yeah. Are they saying our brains know something about blood sugar levels? No, they were saying the representation of like the world in our consciousness is somehow like our blood sugar levels. And I said, that doesn't really follow. So yeah. Well, you would be using blood sugar for energy. Yeah, I have no problem with like blood flow and blood sugar and what you're using it for. But the idea that like that is tracking complex representations, it's like, yes, you are thinking about something in some way. Is that exactly a complex representation, exactly as these guys need right here? Well, maybe, but like they can't claim that. He's talking about metabolism, but the blood going to cells would be oxygen as well. Yeah, not the thing. Sure. The analogy is not helping. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem here. I don't think the analogy... Yeah, I think this is the issue, is that their analogy is not very good. And now they're saying, like, can you think about this stuff? And, like, how does that affect your consciousness when you think about it? It's like, well, that... Who cares in some sense? Like, from my perspective, it's like, who cares? You're trying to get a projection of your own internal states by thinking about them. It's like, well, I don't know if you have any sort of actual understanding of your own internal states. So... Anyway, Dennett submits that when we take on the task of answering the hard questions, specifying the uses to which the so-called representations are put, and explaining how these are implemented neurally, some of the clear alternatives imagined or presupposed by these questions will subtly merge into continua of sorts. It will prove not to be the case that content, however defined, is sharply distinguishable from other properties, in particular from the properties that modulate the reactions and associations evoked. So yeah, they're saying, okay, what's going to happen is it's all going to turn into the same stuff. So it's all going to be, it will not prove to be the case. It will prove not to be the case that our representations, our thought will just all go into the science. So again, this is repeating the statement. It's just this is Dennett's opinion, man. The distinction between continually monitoring and availability to monitoring will also vanish. It already has vanished in many computer programs. Yeah. Suppose that neural signals with content consistent with dog here now arrive at location X in the cortex every 20 milliseconds, thereby preventing location X from inquiring whether there seems to be a dog here now. Is location X continually monitoring for dog presence or just lulled into complacent state of disinterest? Compare in what sense is the background there, unattended phenomenal consciousness. All right, so now Dennett is imagining that there's like this propositional content, dog here now, is like there's a some sort of mental representation of that propositional content that is continually telling you that there's a dog here, and so you don't have to think about it anymore. It's like, yes, but you've begged the question by just being like propositional content like in your brain like that. Like if you can just like have propositional content, that's already a whole metaphysics on its own. Yeah. So it's like, do you want to like go into like being like, all right, so propositions are what we thinking and like that whole metaphysics there? Yeah. Yeah, so like given mechanism, just don't draw an equation. Yeah, this is, yeah, well, I'm tired. Like I said, I'm grumpy and tired today. I'm not putting up with this shit. Like, yeah, you want to just have a like a propositional intellectualist theory of mind where you've got dog here now there. It's like, okay, like that's nice, but like, yeah. It's very 20th century to me, to tell you the truth. This may not be a well-motivated question when we learn more about the mechanisms involved. Frankish's questions are good questions, but that doesn't mean that they will all have crisp answers. Yeah, so this hand-waving like, oh, well, it won't be exactly like what we say it is. The answer may well be that these distinctions do not travel well when we abandon what Sellers calls the manifest image and get down to in the trenches of the scientific image. Here is a sentence that tantalizes me in Daniel Wegner's book, The Illusion of Conscious Will. Quote, "We can't possibly know, let alone keep track of, the tremendous number of mechanical influences on our behavior because we inhabit an extraordinarily complicated machine." Yeah, this is just whiny shit to me. It says, we're so complicated, we just will never know how complicated we are. It's like, that's nice. And so like they're just doing this epistemic hand waving. Well, we're just complicated and that's all that there is. But again, it's just a form of begging the question. This frankly Cartesian formulation exposes the allure of the traditional manifest image. Okay, he's criticizing it. That's fair. There is a place in the brain where our minds portray their operations to us, then not their actual operation. Wegner was silent about how this portrayal to us is accomplished, so it is not clear if he counts as an illusionist. I think he should count, since he gave a good if partial answer to the hard question, while eschewing all questions about the phenomenality of portrayals. As he recognizes the effects he provoked in his experiments could be accounted for as stage magic. Yeah, so everything we experience is just so complicated that we can't like figure it out. But like, okay, but like that again, that is presupposing the physical complicated machine. You can see it right here. It's just a complicated machine. This is just like we inhabit an extraordinarily complicated machine. It's right there. It's like they're not adding anything new. They just keep repeating the point. That's fine, but like, yeah, I'm not going to get convinced. The seeds of illusionism can already be discerned in UT Place's pioneering article, quote, "Is consciousness a brain process?" Again, mechanical terms already, 1956. Yeah, Clockwork Universe. Yep. Place was so bold as to identify the denial of illusionism as a fallacy, the phenomenological fallacy. Quote, "The mistake of supposing that when the subject describes his experience, when he describes how things look, sound, smell, taste, or feel to him, he is describing the literal properties of objects and events on a particular sort of internal cinema or television screen, usually referred to in the modern psychological literature as the phenomenal field." Yeah, so again, it's just like you're in Plato's cave. That's what this consciousness is. But then again, you're just looking at a projection, and that's what the consciousness is. But like, it's all the machinery in the back. How then does one avoid the phenomenal fallacy? J.J.C. Smart offered an answer in 59 and elaborated on his answer in 63. Quote, "The man who reports a yellowish-orange afterimage does so in effect as following, quote, what is going on in me is like what is going on in me when my eyes are open, the lighting is normal, etc., and there really is a yellowish-orange patch on the wall." Yeah, so it's all the same. End quote. So the illusions are just like the same thing as when you see it, it's just one's in your head. As Smart pointed out way back then, it is quite possible for a mechanism to be able to discern or discriminate when something is going on in it is like something else without having any idea just wherein that similarity resides. If we fill the heads of people with such mechanisms, suitably organized and orchestrated, they can provide a large part of the answer to, and then what happens, without ever postulating anything like phenomenality. Yeah, so you're just like projecting the world, and you're looking at it, and that's what the consciousness is. Okay, how might this go? When you seem to see a red horizontal stripe as a complementary color after image of a black, green, and yellow American flag, there's no red stripe in the world, no red stripe on your retina or in your brain. There's no red stripe anywhere. There is a representation of a red stripe in your cortex, and this cortical state is the source, the cause of your heartfelt conviction that you are in the presence of a red stripe. Yeah, so I mean, what they're saying is if you're looking at illusion, like you stare at something green for too long, then you look away, you'll see some red. Like, yeah. You have no privileged access to how this causation works. We have a good theory of how color perception works with its opponent processes and refractory periods, so you can probably explain the earlier distal links in the causal chain from eyeball to conviction, but you simply don't know what the proximal or immediate causes are that put you in a state of subjective conviction and the attendant further sequelae. And then what happens? Well, I don't know what the sequelae is, I guess, and that's what happens. He had to explain because he wanted to use fancy big words, and so he realized no one else knows his fancy Latin. And this is, of course, your access to your normal, not illusory vision as well, of course. This is true of your access to normal, not illusory vision. Yeah, so the whole point is that, okay, so the whole world is like an illusion when you see something and then it's like burnt into your retina and then you look away and you still see it. It's like, okay, is that the entire world? Is that what your consciousness is? Or is that just part of your seeing? The red stripe you seem to see is not the cause or source of your convictions, but the intentional object of your convictions. Yeah, so it's part of your intentions, the way you're looking at things. In normal perception and belief, the intentional objects of our belief are none other than the distal causes of them. I believe I am holding a blue coffee mug, and I am caused to believe the existence of that mug by the mug itself. The whole point of perception and belief fixation is to accomplish this tight coalescence of causes and intentional objects. Is that the whole point of perception and belief? Is to like accomplish a tight coalescence of causes and intentional objects? Is that everything we're doing in our thought? I don't know. But sometimes things go awry. Suppose a gang of hoaxers manages to convince you by a series of close encounters that there is a space alien named Zom who visits you briefly, speaks to you on the phone, etc. The causes of your various Zom experiences can be varied as can be, so that nothing at all in the world deserves to be identified as Zom, the intentional object of your beliefs. What are intentional objects made of? They're not made of anything. When their causes don't coalesce with them, they are fictions of a sort or illusions. We don't postulate fictoplasm as the substance from which Sherlock Holmes and Hamlet are composed, and likewise we shouldn't postulate figments as the stuff of phenomenal properties. When there is a red stripe in the world, the redness is a complex physical property of the stripe. When there just seems to be a red stripe in the world, that very same property is represented as being presented by some team of brain agents that are the cause of your false conviction. Yeah, so this is just fanfic of like mind stuff being presented by some team of brain agents. This is like mental fanfic. Oh crap, he knows about Zom. Yeah. Hey, don't speak about Zom. Quiet. The eternally tempting mistake is to fall for this chain of inference. Quote, it seems to me as if there is a red stripe projected out onto the wall, but there is no such red stripe out there, so it must be in here. And even when there is a red stripe out there in the world that I am seeing, my seeing must involve an intermediary phenomenal red stripe in my consciousness. End quote. We illusionists advise would-be consciousness theorists not to be so confident that they couldn't be caused to have this belief they find arising in them by mere neural representations lacking all phenomenal properties. Of course they could. Just ask stage magicians, illusionists in the everyday sense, who specialize in provoking false but passionately held beliefs in the things that they seem to see but didn't see. Okay, so yeah, it's just saying, oh, you think you have consciousness, but that's a mistake in the world like any other mistake. Yeah. Just beating the drum. Okay, but here's what we do. We give this a rating now. Everyone in chat is welcome to rate what we do. We use these emotes. So please spam the emotes. You thought this was fun, gave you some fun ideas, brain dance. If you thought some existential or artistic drama, nog scream. You're a groom potato. Oh, such a sexy potato. If you thought this had, thank you, welcome back, Lumpy. Thanks for stopping in. If you thought this had some deep ancient ideas, you get the Ouroboros. Nog knife slicing and dicing arguments. Nog navel gazing only for academics. Nog turd, all style no substance, still poop underneath. And nog grapes for big claims that shrivel up. And if you give it any of these emotes over here, in the green, I have an overall score. These make it go up, and the ones in the red make it go down. Also, there's the global vote nay if you just want to give it a thumbs down. Vote yay for thumbs up. Those two will make the score go down and up, respectively. And vote meh if you thought it was meh, and that'll make the score kind of go to the middle. So, what am I going to give it? You know, this is, Tindarius, brain dance, navel gazing, yay. I mean, that's entirely fair. I didn't think it was any fun, but I didn't think it was that terrible either. I'm closer to the meh. I'm going to give him, let's see. Dios gave it a knife, yeah. I'm thinking like a nog knife. I'm not typing in the right spot. I'm also thinking nog knife. I think I'm giving him some grapes. It's just like it's not. Let's see. Vote meh. I'm gonna give it that. And like this is all very. I mean, Dennett's good. I'm gonna give him maybe like I'm gonna give him also a vote yay. So it's like, yeah, grapes feel harsh. I don't like it, but it wasn't bad. Yeah, well, I get annoyed with Dennett. It is harsh, but that's why he's getting the yay to like counterbalance a little bit. Because this happens a bunch with Dennett. He doesn't really, in my opinion, give a lot of arguments in some of these papers. He just kind of states his position and then gives a bunch of stuff around it. And it's like, well, it's not bad. Like, I don't want to give him a golden turd. Like, what he says is very smart, but I don't think he follows through. And it's just like, okay, it's the same sort of position over and over. And he's just beating the drum, in my opinion. So it's like, that's how I feel about it. Yeah, so you're giving grapes in a yay? Yeah. He's not explicit enough. Yeah. And so that's part of the trouble I have with these papers is that Dennett is giving a defense of his position, but it's not like this. It's sort of just a lot of repetition and not a lot of actual argumentation or examples. So this is giving a nice metaphor of magic or illusions. Sure, that's the position. But is this actually adding a whole lot to the conversation? I don't see as a whole lot getting added. And that's why it's giving the grapes. So it's for big things that like claims that shrivel up. So, yeah. But like I said, I don't want to give him a bad thing, so I'll give a yay to like even it out a little, just in my mind. Thank you guys for rating K-Pars, Adam Tudin, not crepes. If you want me to fix that, Adam, let me know. Did you mean crepes or grapes? I should have some crepes. I like crepes. Ooh, I'm gonna be well, I'm not gonna be that close to France. I'll be in Europe, which is closer to France than I am now. But yeah, so DeCarlism, thanks for rating K-Pars, Sendarios, Adam, Cinesemiotics, appreciate it. Yeah. So, yeah, short stream for me today because I'm grumpy and tired, and I'm just like, but stream cheers me up, so that's how we do it. Please fix it, grapes. Yeah, feel free to do it yourself, or I'll do it after stream. Yeah, because it won't read the crepes, but if you do it, it'll add it to your score now. So like you can just fix it after the fact. Just, you don't have to, of course. I'll fix it, but for general purposes, if you want to change your score, you can, like, if you want to change stuff or you mistype something, you can just add it in. Doesn't matter. Thank you. Okay, so last 60 seconds. If anyone else do, how's that? Yeah. Well, it's just the way the system's set up. Tindir says, the end reminded me of when I was blind by a car and continued to see bright spots in my vision that do not exist in the physical world but are perceived by me. Yeah, the claim is part of the illusion. Yeah, so you got that's a concussion that you got probably. So yeah, exactly. And I've gotten hit hard enough where I've like seen spots and stuff. So like there's plenty of like I've had dreams that stuff wasn't there. Like there's a lot of things like okay. So it's like saying is consciousness like those things that you've seen though in the world? Like it doesn't really seem like that. And he's saying, well, it should be a default that it's like, well, okay, you saw stars once or you saw like a red bar in the world because like the way your eyes work. It's like, is that really what we think of consciousness? Like that seems not like the same thing. I don't see consciousness. I don't hear like you sometimes you hear like a ringing in your ear that's not really there. That's not how my experience of consciousness is. So it does seem like there's a disconnect. He's saying, well, this should be the default. Well, should it? Why should it? Like if you see one illusion, like a visual illusion, like a red bar, and then you see another one, like a green bar, you say, well, maybe those two are alike. That seems like a reasonable thing to say. Now you're saying, well, here's a red bar in the world, and then everything you're seeing, this experience of consciousness, is like that red bar. It's like, that's not the same thing. So yeah. It's like, it's not the same thing. Okay, but that's my beef with this article. Thank you all for being